Nope.
It started with small things. Inside jokes between us I'd find her not remembering. Events from a few years ago she would get wrong, though not entirely. Her laugh was even different. "Alana, remember when Strider fell into the lake?" There was a pause, and then she laughed. "He was so clumsy," she replied jokingly. But as I remembered back, she had been terrified when our German Shepherd had haphazardly slid off the smooth rock and into the cool waters of Lake Erie in November. The tide had been higher than normal that evening, and he had just assumed he could venture out to his normal spot on the rocks. He was wrong. Running out ahead and staring back triumphantly, a small wave had pushed him just enough. He lost his balance and slid off the side into the waves. Strider had been unable to get back up himself due to just how wet and slippery the edge had been, and after a few terrified seconds, I managed to jump in and lift him back up onto the rocks myself. It had been 4 years ago, and my wife had been mad at me for what seemed like a month after. "I told you the tide was higher today. He could have died," she had yelled, holding back tears. That had been her reaction at the time. But now her response was much more lighthearted. I chalked it up to growing older. People change, right? Alana was no different. Maybe looking back, she was able to find humor in it. Still, I couldn't help but feel that my wife wasn't the same person. And though part of me didn't want to push the issue, I found the nagging thought of her being someone else entirely burrowing its way deeper into my mind. And things only got worse. A few weeks ago, the colors of her eyes changed from dark brown to a mix of silver and green. Waking up next to her that morning, I had nearly jumped back in bed when she opened them and smiled. They almost shined. "Lana, your eyes," I said. "What's wrong?" she asked, standing up to examine herself in the antique vanity mirror. "Oh," she laughed. "That's just from the medication, Dom," she stated, falling back into bed and wrapping her arms tightly around me. "I'm so glad I'm here with you," she continued. Hiding a sudden feeling of terror, I hugged her back and pretended everything was okay. But I don't think people's eye color just changes, ever, even due to medication. Over the next few weeks, I figured out something I wish I hadn't. The further back in time I referenced, the more sketchy her memory became. Now I know what you're thinking. That makes sense. I mean, everyone's memory is worse further back in time. Dementia and Alzheimer's came to mind. But I've read that typically those patients suffer from short-term memory loss first. Their long-term memory is intact, at least until the later stages. Last night, I confirmed my doubts, catching Alana in a lie about her stepfather. "You think George would want the old pickup? I could sell it to him for cheap." A moment or two passed as she thought it over. "Yeah, I think he might," she replied, smiling warmly and hugging me even tighter than before. "I'm so glad I'm here with you," she said again. I unwrapped her hands and stood up quickly, my eyes never leaving hers. Your stepfather, George, has been dead since you were 12 years old, Lana. A moment passed, and she began to slowly laugh. So help me God, she laughed. I could only stare down in horror. I guess I knew you'd figure it out eventually, she said, quietly before sighing. Dom, your wife Lana has been dead for 7 months. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, you know what to do. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. All of that good stuff. Special shout out to the author of this video, Lighthouse Horror. I'll leave a link down below to the original Reddit post, as well as a link to their YouTube channel where you can subscribe and listen to more of their stories. They do narrations similar to this channel, and there's also a rendition of this story that you can check out if you enjoyed it and want to hear the author's take. Until next time, everybody, remember to stay safe out there. I'll be seeing you in the next video. Damn, I did that whole outro in one take. I'm getting good at this.